studio setting. This class I've taught before, we had the little pressure balls like you guys used at home to rub the feet, but because we don't know what kind of equipment people are working with, we decided not to include that. But if you are living somewhere where you can still order things or purchase things, just nice hard small balls or tennis balls can be great for acupressure on the feet. But, bueno, y puedo decirles en español también, si Tom prefiere, pero Ryan va a ser nuestro modelo, entonces no hay problema. Ryan will model for us. So beyond the theme of our feet and the lower extremities of the body, we'll also look at the theme of just isolation and what keeps us separate. So sort of the underlying theme for this practice will also be separation, which is extremely literal as we do an online practice during a quarantine, during a global pandemic. So not to get too heady, but we'll explore what that separation looks like inside ourselves and potentially from our own bodies. Yin is an internal practice. It is slow, more meditative, and we'll hold the poses between 3 and 5 minutes. We need to get a little bit deeper into the connective myofascial tissue surrounding the muscles and bones in the body. For props this evening, we have a blanket, blocks, and some pillows. If you don't have a blanket, a sheet, if you don't have blocks, a book is fine as well. If you don't have any of those things, you don't really need them. It's depending on what your body needs or desires to create sensation. So don't stress if you don't have anything around you. I hope that this time serves all of us well for creativity. Nice? Yes. We'll start our practice though with our first pose, and in this first pose is where we'll create our intention or our focus. So because we're on a foot focused practice, our first pose has been called many things, but most commonly called broken toe pose. Dedos quebrados. Not really a cute pose, as Ryan will demonstrate. But you start by sitting back on the knees, and you might choose to bring a blanket under the knees or toes. Bring the sit bones to the heels, and working to tuck all 10 toes under, even the pinky toes. Let the hands rest passively on the thighs. Let the eyes close down. And in this space, we'll work to come into our breath. You might choose to take several strong inhales and deep exhales. Allow your body to land. Allow your mind's focus to tether steadily to the breath. Throughout this practice, you might see me look at a watch. I'll typically talk us in and out of poses. The poses are timed. This particular pose can elicit quite a bit of sensation. So you might start by assuring your mind and body that you are safe here, unless your toe is, of course, injured. So todo está bien, estoy seguro, puedo emburrar las sensaciones, mis pies. Voy a enfocarme en mi práctica, lo que necesito hoy, cómo puedo conectarme más a mí mismo y mí. How might we connect more deeply to ourselves and our world? You're creating an intention surrounding connection or separation. You might choose to rest the palms or take the hands to the heart as a symbolic gesture to the self. Or going inward, creating this as a seal or a mudra. We've got just about 30 seconds more. We begin to bring the mind's eye focused even to the littlest toe. Allow a softening sense of surrender to the breath, to the feet. If you'd like, we'll start our practice here with a single round Om. Take a deep inhale. Slowly release the pose. Bring your hands to the floor. Untuck the toes. And the way that you release these postures is up to you. So it might feel good to tap your feet on the floor. It might feel good just to sit back on the heels or to straighten the legs in front of you. Throughout this class, I'll encourage you to take as little movement as possible and then return to a space, a shape that might look something like anatomical neutral. Take time for the pose between the pose. Vamos a volver al neutral, el pose, después que el pose, la postura después de la postura. Sientes más tranquilo. Our next pose in yin is called butterfly. We'll take it just a little bit differently. So you might choose to place a blanket or a block or a pillow underneath your seat, elevating the hips. And if the knees are far from the ground, if this is bothersome, you might choose to put something underneath the knees. We're working to lengthen the spine, open the hips. We'll take a slightly different variation tonight, just for association and a lack of separation. So whether or not this actually fully works in your body, we'll start to try to interlace our toes. So much like we interlace our fingers, go ahead and reach down and bring your toes, starting with your baby toe. You might take the right foot and weave the toes as much as they'll go into one another. We're doing this just for a different sensation, to play with the way the body feels in a way we might not do normally. Don't worry if it doesn't work in your body. If you've got monkey feet like we do, right? Find yourself settled and centered. Let the hips get heavy. We'll take an inhale to find length in the spine, a slight engagement in the abdomen, and find a hinging quality in the hips as you allow lengthening the spine forward. You can bring a rounding quality to the spine as Ryan has. He's placing a block under his forehead, maybe several blocks. You might choose to bring the block to either height or allow the spine to round forward if that feels best for the body. We'll be in this pose for about 5 minutes. Let the eyes closing down. Bring a sense of svadhyaya, or in turtle study. You might start with the focus on your breath. A slow and steady, deep inhale. The slow and steady, deep exhale. Could be Ujjayi Pranayam, or just the measured steadiness. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Draw your awareness to the differing or increased sensation between the toes. Without judging your own body, just notice if this creates a different awareness in your feet than normal or than usual. Meet this awareness with your breath. Inhale. Exhale. Throughout our practice this evening, I'll often talk us into the pose. I'll leave space for silence, and then always cue us out of each pose together with the breath. Allow there to be a softening in the weave of the toes. Perhaps little slivers of space between the connection. Notice if this connection draws you into deeper relationship with your own body. Let the shoulders move down. Let the hips move down. There'll be a quality of sinking and a heaviness in this observation as well. Notice if there are any internal agitation. Si hay una frustración adentro. These frustrations, diversions, or agitations are the darkness in our mind, the separation of us from the present situation. There's nothing wrong. This is an innate piece of our human nature, the yin and the yang, the hidden, the quiet, the obscure, lo que está escondido en los rincones de su mente. Give these dark spaces your breath, da la respiración a esos lugares escondidos. And see if the breath can allow you to be present just a few moments longer. We'll take 2 more slow cycles of breath here without rushing. Nice and slow. Deep inhale. Deep exhale. Deep inhale. Deep exhale. Your next inhale, very slowly begin to engage the abdomen to lengthen the spine. And as you come to a seat, you might unlace the feet first, or perhaps use the hands to lift the knees. Bring life to any areas that feel tight. So you might move through the ankles, the feet. Give yourself a little shake. And after you've shaken out any tightness, giving yourself that moment in anatomical neutral where you find stillness. belly soften. Bringing in a quiet, subtle quality of awareness. Getting past the thoughts to the very physical sensations in the body. Take a deep inhale, light pause at the top, let the chest fill. Full exhale. So our next pose can be called several things, called square pose in yin. I believe we'll take a couple different variations. So again, throughout this practice, you might choose to be seated on a blanket or a pillow. We'll start square pose kind of in two different options. And the blanket this time might be under your ankles. So we'll cross the right ankle over the left and work the heels of the feet under the knees. Feet are flexed strongly back in towards the body, and heels are pulling in towards the glutes. So we'll move a little bit in and out here. You might stay here. If this doesn't bring much sensation, and we are looking for sensation in our hips, you might work the feet out a little bit further. Draw the heels back. If you're still looking for a bit more sensation, you might choose to take the right heel over the edge of the left knee. So fire log pose in yang yoga. Okay, this can bring a lot of different modifications into play. Strong flexion of both feet, so both feet are looking back at the body. You might choose to have a block under the right knee. Ryan has a blanket around his ankles and feet. And because we're foot focused this evening, if it works for you, you might even take the sole of the left hand for a moment to the sole of the right foot. Taking both hands to both feet, hastas to padas. Take a moment to lengthen. And as you inhale, draw the heels back in towards the body. So you feel a little bit of a squeeze. So even this is yin, we're going to do a little bit of engagement first. Find that squeeze of integrity. A little zip up of the belly. If you're pulling on some jeans. No one wears jeans right now. From this engagement, from this strong base, you can choose to stay lifted, or perhaps increasing the sensation by hinging from the hips. So feeling the sensation in the hip flexors, continuing to draw the heels back in towards the body. If you have another block available for you, which I don't, feeling free to take that to rest the head on. You're at home on a couch. If you're here, if you'd like. You have a helper. Get creative. So I say this a lot, but only you are in your body. So these ideas of engagement, the drawing slightly of the heel in towards the hip, only you know, right? As you draw in, do so lightly. Perhaps give yourself 3 breaths for that engagement, and then release. Let gravity take hold. And a slow breath in, and a slow breath out. Because we will switch sides in this pose, we'll be here for about 3 minutes. Notice right away if there's any pieces or parts of your body that are speaking to you separately. If something feels apart from the whole. This might be an area of deep sensation. Or it might be a part of your body that you just don't feel at all. First, in your mind's eye, perhaps draw the awareness to where you feel sensation. It might be the outer hip on the right or left, or the ankle. Draw the awareness there with lightness of observation. Deep inhale and a full exhale. And if you can, find some piece of your physical body where there's no sensation or very small. Could be the ear or the neck, donde no sientes casi nada, parte de su cuerpo como no hay concentrado mucha sensación. Enfoca su mente aquí, en esta parte. ¿Cómo que puedes unir las dos partes? How can we connect both pieces and parts? Both the deep sensation and a lack of connection. So you can pour the light of awareness into both or all aspects of the body. We'll take 2 more breaths on this side without rushing into the next moment. Take a deep, steady inhale and a reciprocal exhale. Deep inhale and deep exhale. Release this however feels good for you. This can often be a challenging pose. So taking your time to shake out the legs, to lift the head. And you want to release as much as you can areas of tightness or deep sensation, anything shooting, but then coming back to stillness. Give yourself 1 or 2 breaths before switching sides of your body. Using the power of your exhale breath to literally just lay down the sensation of the previous side of the body. Honing our skills of observation. If you sat with crossed legs last time, I believe the left ankle would cross in front of the right, or if I have that backwards. Switching to the opposite side of your body. Nope. We'll take the left ankle over the edge of the right knee, or the left shin in front. There are many different modifications. If none of these options work for your body, sitting back in round angle, cradling the leg, or even coming back to lay down in a figure 4 shape. Yeah, so once you find the props that allow you to sit tall, drawing the heels back, pulling up through the spine, finding the length. Great. And then calling awareness to the feet with the hands. sense of touch. So there's flexion in the feet moving back in towards the body, and the heels draw back. Let the eyes close down, and you might take several breaths here with engagement. Find a long spine. Elongación, espalda, ondas en la cintura. You can do this pose as well with the back or the glutes pushing into the wall. Notice if the silence separates you from the moment or draws you in closer. So does your mind wander and travel, or are you focused and landed by the quietness, finally able to relax the sea of thoughts among a blustery ocean? If you do find that your mind has traveled, can you breathe light and space into that observation? Notice if it's gone somewhere dark. Notice if you cycle through the same thoughts. And then bring your thoughts into the ground, to the floor. Notice which pieces and parts of you are connected to the floor. The glutes, or the hips, perhaps the foot, or the ankle. Feel the body connect with the earth. Inhale. Exhale. Let this gesture and recognition of connection be an offering, a simpler way of living. Your feet to the earth, your breath to the body. We will take 2 more cycles of breath here. Perhaps your longest And slowest breaths for today. Deep inhale. Full exhale. Deep inhale. And a full exhale. Use the strength of the inhale to press into the hands enough to lengthen the spine. And as you exhale, slowly releasing the legs. It might feel good to windshield wiper the knees or to shake out the feet. Your body, your practice, your choice, right? Kind of softness in the knees and in the ankles. A sense of relaxation around the borders of the hips. Once more, find a long inhale breath. Take time to pause at the top. And then exhale to release. So we'll continue with a hip opening, so the entire back line of the body, but foot-focused options. So shoelace or broken shoelace, as it is often called in yin. It can feel good if you have a blanket. I should have brought an extra blanket for myself for under your ankles. Two options. So I'll digress. Full shoelace would be crossing the right leg, right knee over the left leg, bending the left knee, bringing both soles of the feet in towards the butt. However, if you'd like to take one at a time, you can also take broken shoelace. So bending the right knee, left leg is straight, letting the knee lay over the leg. So if you feel ripping, tightening, pulling in the knee, it's not worth it. It's not worth sacrificing your body for yin yoga. Are you sacrificing your body? So Ryan has got the full variation and I have a half variation. Either way, we'll sit up tall. And again, take a moment for engagement where you draw the heel back in towards the body, the heel or both heels. If you've got both legs crossed, or you have one, we'll take the hand. So in my case, my right leg is on top. I take my left fingers and weave them in between my toes. And if this is an odd sensation, you don't need to keep it the entire 3 minutes. But just drawing our awareness and our relationship into the base of our feet. Some of us might spend more time touching our feet than others or on our feet than others. And if you've got the other one, then hug the feet in, draw the navel back, draw the glutes back. Find a long spine as you inhale. And this might take a buddy, but as you exhale, you might choose to fold forward. You have the option of letting the head rest on the knee or perhaps to a block, or staying upright if that's enough sensation for your body. So the goal here is not to get to some crazy place. It's to find an edge interesting enough so that your mind can use that as an anchor. Yeah, the blocks can work. Also turning around and allowing the head to rest on a pillow or a chair. If this is a shape that elicits deep sensation, let's meet the sensation with breath. Perhaps slowing down the cycles of breath. So let's start perhaps by breathing for a count of 4. So we'll inhale together for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. A little longer for 5. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So continuing on your own breath, that counting is beneficial. Slowing and deepening the breath, widening the field so that the breath is wide and deep. Let this help create space in the hips, space in the back, a deeper sense of connection to your own body. Consider your breath as a vehicle moving throughout the body. Allow the breath to help foster relationship with yourself. The awareness, the sensations, whether they are sharp or soft, facilitate a way to be real, to be connected, to be present with all that you are experiencing. And we'll take 2 more rounds of breath on this side. Deep inhale. Deep exhale. Full inhale. And a full exhale. Especially if this is a pose which elicits a lot of sensation, unwinding slowly, releasing with care. And again, without moving an extraneous amount, finding a way to create stillness before switching sides in your body. Might be a shaking or a tucking of the toes under. It's not uncommon for one side of the body to be able to sit in this way and the other side to not. So if that sitting with both legs crossed works for you, on one side and not on the other, this time with my body it would be left leg on top. I'm letting the leg fall open, light external rotation. Both my knees are squeezing isometrically towards the center line of my body as my heels press out and back. So a little. Ryan's got his blanket under his glutes. You might have a block or a pillow. Allow yourself to get situated, and then whichever hand you haven't used to interweave your fingers and toes, give yourself at least the first 3 breaths with that tactile connection, hand to feet. And whenever you're ready, getting that length, space, settling the hips, getting heavy through the muscle of the bone. Draw the mind's eye to the outer edges of the hips and notice if the sensation increases when you hinge and fold. And if the increased sensation is equal to a deeper meditation or a space where the mind would like to focus. Yes, it's a balance. Like if there's no sensation whatsoever, that might be closer to restorative yoga or what you need in any given day. If there's too much and the body's fighting it, like redistributing tension to the jaw or the hands or the eyes, consider a softening. As a gateway into this moment, you might choose to come back to counting your breath. You might even choose to allow the head to rest on something that's not moving, like a wall. It actually feels really good. Let yourself land with an exhale breath. Let any tension in the face or jaw soften and melt back down to the ground. In forward folds, it can be interesting to think about the connection between the front and the back of our bodies. These pieces and parts are not separate. You might think about the inhale breath traveling from the base of the sit bones up the back of your body, from the glutes, the area of the kidneys, the back of the ribs, the heart, shoulders, all the way up to the crown of the head. And as you exhale, envision the breath exiting down the front of the body. It's a symbolic release from the head to the throat, to the heart, to the belly. Let the inhale sweep the energy up the back body from the hips, to the kidneys, to the shoulders, the head. The exhale, bring that cooling sensation of release as the chest melts closer to the floor. This is a pose that does elicit deep sensation. feeding that sensation with breath, anchoring the mind to the slow river of equanimity, the inhale, the exhale. Be a soft, allowing quality for thoughts. We take 2 more cycles of breath in this shape. Deep inhale. Deep exhale. Full inhale. Full exhale. Releasing in any way that feels good for you. You need to walk the hands in closer to the body to help lift the head and heart. Again, shaking out might involve tapping out the feet or tucking the toes. Lots of different ways, different ideas. Taking the time that you need, but just enough so that you can again find that space and peace in the center, where you reconnect the experience with the mind, the body, heart for a moment. Our next pose has a more intense name. The version of dragon, this one's called fire breathing dragon. So we'll set it up. We'll set it up accordingly. There's many modifications and ideas. It can be on the hands or on the forearms. I've got a pillow for my forearms. But we'll start with the right leg forward. And the options are, I'm going to steal this block for a moment. The right foot is forward, depending on, can I still hold your blocks for a moment? Depending on the mobility in the hips, you might have both blocks high with hands on the blocks, perhaps a pillow under the knee if the knee is sensitive. You have the option to keep the knee lifted here. That's the fire breathing portions, like the rah. Or perhaps bringing the forearms to a block. If you're at home and I can see you guys have a couch or somewhere to lean, this rock post is probably not the most soft option, but you will get a sensation, perhaps leaning the forearms into a rock wall or a chair. Working with the right foot forward, relaxing the left hip flexor. This is a deep hip stretch. The right sole of the foot is flat on the floor. Specifically the right big toe. And I'll be very astute with the timer here. So the knee doesn't have to be lifted, it can be. The outer hips are hugging in. So engaging the bandhas here. La cadera está como si fuera dentro de un bíceps. The big squeeze in. There's a draw in of the navel. So there is an engagement here. There is a yang quality to this pose. Very evident, correct? So your mission here is to find the yin. Where can you be a bit more passive? This depends on your body, right? If you are already hypermobile, keep that engagement. If you are very flexible, keep that squeeze of the hips, the draw of the navel, not allowing ourselves to overstretch. If this feels quite tight, allowing a softening. So there's room for whoever you are in your body. Find the support in some space. You've already been here for about 1.5 minutes. Yeah, beautiful creativity. And feel the stability of your right foot. Notice how that light press enables you to keep the hips lifted, the jaw soft. About 1/2 minute left in this pose. Como 30 segundos más. So this fiery connection is your capacity to be fully aware and fully engaged in the sensations of your body. Take 2 more cycles of breath here. Deep, steady inhale. Deep, steady exhale. Deep, steady inhale. Full exhale. So releasing this pose might feel more obvious. You might drop the left knee to the floor. Perhaps the right knee meets the left. Child's pose might feel like a good option here. Both knees to the mat, forehead moves towards the earth. This is quite an active pose for a yin practice. Taking time to observe any thoughts that creep across the surface of the mind. The exhilaration, frustration, or anything in between. See if you can draw any judgments that separate you from your body, from the moment out, and land back to the breath. Feel the back body lift, the buoyancy of the inhale. Feel the front body soften with the release of the exhale. And then we'll switch sides. So the left foot steps forward this time. Hands might come to rest or forearms, so depending on where you're drawing sensation in the hips. Left foot steps to the outer edge of the left hand. Right toes tuck under, hips draw in towards the center line. So Ryan's resting his forearms on the blocks and his head is hanging, but if he had a better prop master, perhaps we could give him another block. A chair is an excellent prop. You guys are all super creative. Wherever you are in this shape, take the first few breaths for engagement. The press of the foot, the hug of the hips, and the navel draws in as though you were zipping up jeans. So it's the low belly. both Mula and Uddiyana Bandha you practice using your floating mat. The back toes are tucked. Allow that tuck to lift the hips and bring a lightness into this pose. Feel the grounding sensation through the feet. Notice if the toes can spread anymore. If the spreading of the toes gives you more or less stability. Just observing. Notice the hands or the forearms, if they're also acting like feet, they're pressing into the floor. Use this light sensation of pressure to create stability and anchoring for the body. Draw the mind back to the awareness on the breath. Inhale as it moves up the back of the body. And the exhale as it releases and softens the front. Have just about 1 more minute here in this shape. Notice if that announcement brings any sort of reaction. See if you can witness that without getting too drawn into the story. So oftentimes more than physical distance, it's our stories that help create separation. Us from ourselves, or us from each other. Drawing us away from the moment. Okay, so just 2 more cycles of breath here. Let them be your own breath, your own body, your own practice. Deep inhale. Deep exhale. Deep inhale. Deep exhale. Releasing this pose by bringing the right knee down towards the floor if it's not already. Bringing the left knee to meet the right. Perhaps shaking out the legs or finding Balasana, child's pose. Allow a deeply soothing sense of release to enter the body. Before we move down onto the floor, before we move towards Shavasana, we'll take a little mini pose in between this pose. And it's a shorter pose because it's a hard one to balance on. It's just a little counteraction for all of the flexion of the feet, for all of the hands in between the fingers, the stretch for the top of the feet and the ankles. So we'll come to sit on our heels. It feels a lot better to have a blanket and not the ground underneath you. Hands come behind you or to blocks, and I'll demo this first. You'll rock back onto the hands and let the knees lift up. So there's a stretch to the top of the feet and the ankles. Counter indications would be if you're injured in your foot or your ankle. It'll probably be easier to see with Brian. We'll only be here for about a minute, just rocking back. Brian's using his blocks to lift his knees, which is a fantastic idea. So discernment here, whether or not we're feeling sensation or hurting ourselves. Few steady breaths. Soften the shoulders and the gaze. Keep the body still. Take 3 cycles of our own breath here. And when you're ready to release, walking yourself forward, you might tap the tops of the feet on the floor. Perhaps coming all the way down to your seat and shaking out the feet and ankles. Probably doing both. Or staying a little bit longer if that feels good. And as you shake and begin to release, we'll start to make our way onto our backs. Perfect timing here, starting to rain lightly. It's always a beautiful omen for Shavasana. If you have a blanket, you might get your friend or partner to help put the blanket over you. Choose to put the blocks under the knees if you'd like, or a blanket. Should I have a pillow? If you have the time, come all the way down to the ground to relax. Let yourself go. See if we can slide into Shavasana with our breath. Take a full deep inhale and a full deep exhale. See if you can slip fully into this sleep without dreaming. Forget any rules or roles for being yourself, for how you act, for who you need to be. Allow this space of restful floating to be a deep truth. A dark space of full connectivity and rest. Allow a light awareness of the breath to reconnect you with the present moment. As a point of connection and awareness, you might take one hand to the belly, one hand to the heart. Fire in the belly, honey in the heart. A reminder or an arrival of coming home in our own body. Because we are isolated or because we are physically separated does not mean we need to be separate from ourselves. Using this time for self-awareness, for a more rooted and deeper grounded connection, so that our interactions and our connections with one another are based in a sincerity of present, centered mindfulness. Take a few breaths here. Allow for that deep connection to yourself. Either choose to close your practice here, or if you'd like to slowly find more movement and make your way up to a seat. Whichever shape you're choosing to take the hand from the belly, place both hands, one on top of the other over the heart. Coming full circle, full cycle, the ritual of our practice. It's this energetic connection that connects me to you, connects all of us to each other, all of us to many other people throughout the world practicing these moments